Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
When you see the girl in the picture that was shown to you earlier today, you will say, "This is the girl." The rest of the cast can stay. That's up to you. But the choice for that lead girl is not up to you. Now, you will see me one more time if you do good. You will see me 2 more times if you do bad. Good night.
Hello there, and welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are here to talk about movies. Each week, Brandon and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. This week, I picked Mulholland Drive from 2001. Both Brandon and I have seen a few Lynch films here and there, but this has been an oversight for both of us for quite some time. I know it's pretty celebrated and thought as one of the greatest films of all time by many people. So stay tuned to hear what we think about it. If you want to know what we're going to be watching next week, listen to the end of the episode, and Brandon will be telling us all. Can't wait for that. Before we jump into the films, though, as always, we'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast and sending their love for the show. If you're new, hello. Welcome to the show. Glad that you picked this one. It should be a good conversation. But we have all of our 81 other episodes streaming behind us. So go and check those out. There's some great seasons. We did one on Sergio Leone. We did one on Stanley Kubrick. We've done some one-off episodes on recent releases such as Morbius and Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. So you can go and check those out too. And we also invite our friends to come and share the love of Film Church. The last episode that we did was with Mitch, who's a good friend of ours, and it was a great conversation. So go and check that one out as well. Surprise, surprise, as a Film Church, we do post episodes on Sunday, so that's when to look out for new episodes, and we do it every single week. We never miss a week, so you'll never be sad on Sundays that there's not a new Film Church episode. It's going to be there. We promise you that. You can find us on all social media platforms at Film Church Radio as well. Please leave us a comment, send a message about the show. We'd love to know what you're thinking, what you make of the films we're watching as well. Film is subjective. We want to know what you think too. So please let us know.
Please.
Before we discuss the film, we go into our hymns section. This is a part of the show where Brandon and I talk about other films that we've been watching this week and sing the praises or don't of certain films. Looking at your first film that you're going to talk about, Brandon, I don't think we'll be singing many. So yeah, Brandon, what have you been watching?
A few things. Been in and out of the movie theater and then catching up on some other movies.
Yeah.
So one of them was Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which I won't talk about too much. I mean, we talked a lot with Mitch last week, lot about superhero movies in our trailer/hymn section if people want to hear all the superhero catch-up stuff. But yeah, I mean, I gave it 2 out of 5. It was not great, and there wasn't a ton to love. I mean, I might give it another chance, once we get down the line and learn a little more about Kang, maybe, and just to go back and be like, what was that about again? You know? Yeah. But I was dozing off and just I don't understand why all of these movies have to have just a huge battle sequences between two sides that we don't there's just the wide shot of all the tiny little people on one side and tiny people on another side. I mean tiny as in it's a wide shot. And but I guess they are in the quantum realm, so they are tiny. But just two sides of people running at each other and fighting, and it's just I don't care about this. Can we just have a story?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they had to do that at the end of the Black Panther sequel. What was it called?
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever. Yeah, they did that again at the end on the ship and stuff, and it was just like, okay. I mean, I care about these characters. I want to know what's going on with the story, but I don't need like every climax to be this big battle between two sides. Like, can we just move on from that like plot device?
Yeah.
In all of these blockbuster movies, it's not just superhero movies.
No,
You know?
it's not. Yeah.
So yeah, it was not a lot for me to love there, unfortunately. I do like at the beginning. The thing is, like, the trailer was good. Trailer was way better than the movie, and I like the guy. I don't know the actor's name, but the guy in like the first scene when Ant-Man goes and gets a coffee or whatever, and the guy's like, "Thanks, Spider-Man." You know that guy.
Yeah.
He's in this sketch show, I Think You Should Leave, on Netflix, and he's super funny in that. So it was like funny to see him in the movie, and that's like one of the funniest parts of the movie. But it's also in the trailer, so like when you see the movie, it's not funny anymore. You know?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's like, you know, these moments of a movie that could make the movie good, but because you've already seen them, it's not helping make the movie good, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah.
So anyway, I also rewatched Evil Dead, 5 out of 5. It's one of the greatest movies ever. I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Yeah, just so good. Every time I watch it, it's just like I can't believe that they made a movie this good on such a low budget, you know. And it's like one of their, I mean, they did a lot of stuff together before the movie, so it's not like the first thing they ever did together, but I think that's the difference between like using filmmaking as practice and then realizing, okay, now I'm gonna actually make my first feature and make it really, really good.
Yeah.
And putting everything into it. I did watch Vengeance finally, which I know you really liked and have been wanting me to see from 2022. My gosh, I'm blanking on the actor's name from The Office.
BJ Novak.
Yeah, BJ Novak wrote and directed it, I believe. And yeah, it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
You know, I liked it a lot. Like all the Texas stuff was really funny. It was a little bit like I don't know. It was a little bit like an outsider writing Texas stuff, but it was still like on point. You know, it was still really funny. And you know, I'm gonna rewatch it. Like I know a lot of people that like this movie. Like Sarah's brother, like it's like his favorite movie right now. And he's like always talking about it and sharing it with people.
Yeah.
And I think he really liked the ending, but I wasn't super hot on the ending.
Okay.
Just because I didn't feel I get what he was going for. And this is gonna get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen Vengeance, you know, plug your ears or skip forward a little bit.
Yeah.
But and I'll try to keep it a little tame, maybe. But I just didn't see the motivation leading up to that final scene.
Yeah.
Where he like pulls the trigger. It's like it felt very out of left field, which I know you want that in a moment like that a little bit, but also it didn't. I feel like there is a difference between, you know, a character doing something noble or whatever, or doing something, you know, drastic, or doing something out of character, and someone just straight up like murdering someone. It's just like, okay, like we probably should have seen a little more of like a psychotic breakdown first.
Yeah.
You know, like I just didn't have any hints of like this guy would definitely kill someone. You know what I mean? So it was 4 out of 5. I still really like the movie. I have to watch
Good.
it again and maybe it'll make more sense and I'll be like, oh, actually that does work really well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gotta watch it again. I only watched it once. But that's kind of where I was at with it. What about you? I know it's been like a year since you watched it and you went and saw it in theaters, but do you have any?
Yeah, I think it resonated because obviously being an outsider living in Texas, there was a lot of things in there that made me smile and kind of I could appreciate a lot. The Texans' love of Whataburger was definitely part of it. That I was like, yep, that is correct. But yeah, I think same as you. I think that it wrote itself into a bit of a corner where the character, the lead character had to do something that was meaningful or had to get to a conclusion. And the only way to do that was, I think it was written to a point where that was the only way that he could come out and still be, it could mean something.
Yeah. And it just felt like such a leap for me as a viewer to be like, to accept that character had reached a point that he would do that.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, if we had seen a little more beforehand, or if we had seen maybe the other character, I'm trying to keep away. I'm already spoiling stuff, but if the other character that gets killed at the end, if we had seen more of like, oh yeah, he's super, super evil. I mean, he did seem evil, but like, you know what I mean? Like just something where it was like,
he deserves it. Yeah.
Yeah, a little more. But, I don't know. I'm picking it apart. I still really love the movie, like I said, 4 out of 5. And the Whataburger stuff was really funny and very quotable. It's like when I drive by Whataburger now, I'm like, it's right there. But yeah, let us know what you guys think of the ending of Vengeance. Does it feel forced or does it seem justifiable in some way? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
It's because it's literally like within the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was that, and then I also watched Fast X from this year in the cinemas.
Wow.
I gave it 2.5 out of 5. We went. When did we go? We went sometime last week. Sarah got off work a little early, and we went at like an 11 p.m. showing. And there were still quite a few people in the theater on it was like a Wednesday night or something, or Tuesday night. And definitely not my favorite of the Fast and Furious franchise. But I've said this lots of times on the show, like the 5th one is the peak for me. So it kind of goes downhill forwards and backwards from there. But yeah, there with a lot of these movies, the endings of them have been like, and that's the end, question mark, because it's like they actually end every time. But then in the next one, they're like, actually, this person was in the background in this in 4 movies ago that you never saw and is coming back for them. And it's like, okay, whatever, I'll go along with it. But it's just stretching so thin now. I do think this one was a bit better than the last one, I think. I don't really know. They're all starting to blur together. Jason Momoa was super bizarre at first in the movie.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
But then, and a lot of people I've heard don't like it, but like, it was weird at first, but then like, I just kind of like, leaned into it as he was leaning into it. It was like, this is actually kind of entertaining and pretty great. And I really enjoyed his performance
Good.
as it went on. It was like, okay, this is keeping me interested in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really liked him, but then the ending of the movie is the first one where it literally ends on like a cliffhanger, kind of like Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Not quite as well written, but but it's gonna be a two-parter. And I was joking around with Sarah. I don't know if they'll do this or not, but it would be, to me, would be hilarious if like they turned the Fast X into like a trilogy, and the next one was just like Fast Double X, and then the last one was Fast Triple X. Just so he could blend his two like, big
franchises.
movies. Yeah. And it's like, that was him the whole time, same person.
It is the most infuriating sequence of films for titles.
Yeah.
I just have no idea which one is what.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm, kudos if I read somewhere that it may be maybe like due to where the rights are, that they can make the films, but they can't do like Fast and Furious 1, Fast and Furious 2, Fast and Furious 3, or something like that. Maybe. So they have to kind of keep. You can't have Fast 5 followed by Fast 6. It needs to be Fast 5 followed by something that's not a number, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But still, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's just all over the place. And there's an English critic that I like that calls it Fast 10 Your Seatbelts.
Yeah.
Which is really good.
I saw that in a comment somewhere a few years ago too. And I was like, that would be amazing. Fast 10 Your Seatbelts. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna rewatch all these at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're kind of fun.
Yeah.
But if I am just gonna rewatch one, it's gonna be Fast 5. And I don't think you even really have to have seen any of the other movies to enjoy them. I think because what's going to happen is you're going to try to rewatch them and try to see if it makes sense, and it's not going to anyway.
No.
So you're going to be just as confused as far as the plot and story goes, no matter if you jump in blindly or if you try to watch them all in order. So
yeah,
if you're going to watch one, go watch Fast 5. And spoilers, The Rock is coming back.
Oh yeah, because didn't he have a bit of a fallout with Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
Okay. So and then Black Adam bombed, and he was like, "Maybe I'll go back to the franchise."
Yeah, that's what people are saying.
Yeah,
but all right, fasten your seatbelts. So that was me. What have you been watching?
So after our Shine episode, I went back and I watched A Place in the Sun from 1951, also directed by George Stevens.
Yeah.
I talked about it a little bit.
Is it a Western?
It isn't. It's kind of like a melodrama. It's Elizabeth Taylor just being the most incredible person in the world. And it's made in 1951, so I think Shane was after this. I'll have to double check on the date.
I think Shane was like 54 or 53 or something.
Yeah. And then Montgomery Clift is in it as well. And it's about a guy that kind of goes to work for his uncle, and like they're like, don't date any of the workers, and he immediately starts dating one of the workers and then falls in love with Elizabeth Taylor. And it's kind of like, the drama goes from there.
Yeah.
Really. It's incredibly well lit. I mean, it's some of the most beautiful kind of shots I've seen for a while in classic Hollywood. Most of it is born out of necessity to try and get around the production code, because there's a lot of like extra like outside of marriage relations going on. So they're always kind of in the shadows or like behind doors and stuff like that. But it kind of works for the plot. And it's got a very satisfying conclusion as well for the time. And I've seen it a few times. I know that I've mentioned it last time, but it is creeping up my list of films that I really, really love and ones that I kind of would go back to and just kind of enjoy watching at any time. And I think it's on Criterion Channel right now. It's part of their method acting section that they've got up at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for a film to watch, I would recommend A Place in the Sun if you've got Criterion Channel. I gave it 5 out of 5. I think it's great.
Sweet.
Yeah, maybe George Stevens is best if you are so inclined.
Yeah.
And then we did something crazy for the first time. We took my daughter to the cinema.
Whoa.
Yes.
I saw your pictures.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. And we were like, okay, we need to kind of, figure this out. And then one day we were like, let's just go and see Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Let's just do it.
Yes. And this is the new live action 2023 version. So we went to like a screening and we were like, just be prepared to leave if she's not enjoying it. If it's too loud, we can just go.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Alamo do the kid-friendly screenings. So there was a lot of other kids in there her age, which helped.
Yeah.
Because she was a bit more kind of like, okay, like everyone else is being quiet, I'll be quiet. But she did me very proud. She sat, quietly through the whole thing. She enjoyed it a lot. And we had a good time. The film itself, I think, as the remakes go, it's higher up the list of good remakes that they've done. When I say good remakes, I mean, remakes that we don't want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's still there.
Yeah.
Nothing beats the original songs. I think the lead actress who plays Ariel is incredibly good. Her voice is great. Does a really good job of kind of carrying that weight. And Melissa McCarthy is just channeling divine the whole time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
The new songs don't quite cut it. They're not as memorable. There's like Prince Eric gets a song. And I was listening to it, I was like, I literally can't remember what the last word said. Like, it's so forgettable.
Yeah.
And he's just like, somewhere in the sea, there's someone I love or something like, I don't know. And it's not, it's not great. But it looks nice. My daughter enjoyed it. It's fine.
Yeah. Has she been like obsessing over it? Has she been like, I'm the Little Mermaid, or like,
I mean, she's always been a little bit like that because she's always loved the Little Mermaid, and she does like being in the water. So she enjoys that side of it. We put the soundtrack on every now and again, with the new casting and the old songs, and she's enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, not kind of to the point of like, she's obsessed with it.
Yeah. I always like wonder what my first cinema experience is like.
Yeah.
Or was like.
Yeah.
I've shared like a few like random memories that I've had, but I don't remember like what the movies were necessarily. So it's cool that you'll be able to tell her one day, like, this was the first movie.
And I mean, I'm going to keep a list of everything that we go and see, because the next film I'm going to talk about is another one that we went to take her to see. We decided that because she'd done such a good job, we were like, let's find another film that she'd like, and it coincided with Elemental, the new Pixar film, being released.
Yeah.
So we went to see that as well. Again, she did really well, and she enjoyed it. And she's only 3.5, so
yeah,
it's still kind of a big thing for us to be doing. The film itself, it's okay. Yeah. I love Pixar. I always have. And some of, they've given some of the best examples of sugarcoating tough subjects for kids and just helping them get through it. This, I read a review on Letterboxd. I don't want to take credit for it, but someone on Letterboxd said that it's like a rough draft, the film. Like the things are there in the script, but it doesn't quite feel like it's been worked enough to be fully formed.
Yeah.
It's dealing with, immigration and kind of families starting new lives in new cities and like
multiculturalism.
Yeah, exactly. It's, a bit Romeo and Juliet like.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of threads that don't feel fully formed. There's a lot of like plot contrivances that kind of come out of left field. you know. And when I think of Pixar, I think of like perfectly crafted
Exactly.
stories, you know. And it just wasn't quite that, which is a real shame. And it's sad because I know that the director, you know, it's not been doing great at the box office, and the director says, you know, fans are just hardwired now to be like, it'll be on Disney Plus soon. I don't need to go and see it. It'll be streaming soon.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, unfortunately is the case, and it just makes me even more upset that films like Turning Red and Luca didn't get the
Exactly.
cinema
It
run
seems
they-
like they're kind of like who's making the decision of like what's going in theater and what's going on Disney Plus.
It's just that I know it's like,
but
they
I guess
just don't-
Turning Red and Luca,
came out
They-
at time.
like during COVID and stuff.
Yeah. But I don't think that the marketing team just knew what to do with it. I've seen like a few trailers and posters and stuff, but they premiered it at Cannes, which didn't go down too well. It's not a Cannes movie. It
That's
doesn't
so
feel
weird.
Yeah, it doesn't, you know, feel like it's that profound, you know, unfortunately. So word of mouth is just, you know, dropping, and it's just going to disappear into obscurity, unfortunately.
What is going on with movies like that showing at Cannes? Because I know they also showed Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed Top Gun, which is like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just seems to me, it's like, are they just paying to have it shown there?
I think
for street cred?
You might have hit with the Top Gun. I think with Top Gun showing and it legitimately being a really good film, that they're like, oh, we'll do that as well, and it will get more people to go see it. You know, because Top Gun did do really good business.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, what other films have these studios got? You know, they're not. We're only seeing
making art necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. And unfortunately, it means that we're gonna just go back to the characters and films that we already know, and we're just gonna run those stories into the ground. There's gonna be no new original ideas.
Yeah.
And from Pixar, who have always been really original, you know, it's a real shame.
Yeah, but I mean, as we've seen with like Sony Animation, like maybe it's time for another studio to kind of lead the way in animation for a bit. And Guillermo del Toro, you know, doing his Pinocchio, and you know,
saying that he's only going to work in animation now. So it's a shame. Disney for me have always been like the best at animation, the best at what they do, and it just seems that it's flagging. You know, they're not. I don't know. I know it all stems. It all stems from the need for the amount of content that they're putting out. Yeah, you know. So maybe these ideas don't have the chance to become fully formed. Yeah, but you know.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's a changing landscape.
Like you said, it's like if they're putting out a ton of content, you know, then they're gonna have like several different teams. Making different things, and like not all of them are gonna.
I know. I mean, even the short ahead of Elemental, because Pixar do like a short, which is normally, you know, like new directors trying something a bit different. You know, we've had some really incredible shorts. It was Carl's Date, the character from Up. It was just like a short of him going on like a new date, which is fine. You know, it's not terrible. But it's like, where's the new voice? Like, what, you know?
Yeah, that sounds just like
give this to someone?
Some random thing that would go on Disney Plus. Like, instead of like trying to do something experimental or.
Yeah, because they had that whole series of the Up shorts on Disney Plus, which were, you know, fine. You know, my daughter enjoyed them. They, you know, featured Doug heavily, which is great. And it is just that again, but now in the cinemas in front of a new release. It is very strange.
They did something super weird when Coco came out, and they had that like 45 to 50 minute special from Frozen before Coco, and people were furious about that. Yeah, like. because I was working at a theater when that happened. And of course, there was tons of stuff online about it, but people, I mean, it was the first like Disney like embracing Latin
Yeah.
American culture or just Latin culture, and like and so all of these and it was a boy, it centered around a male character, and so all of these families are going out, and little boy's excited and dad's excited, and and I'm sure mom and sister are coming along too, but like the movie quote unquote starts and they get 50 minutes of Princess Elsa
Yeah.
and from Frozen, and they're all like, what, people are coming out of theaters like, why are y'all playing the wrong movie?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is you're gonna have to
Part
sit
of it,
through
yeah,
this. I can't. If I try to restart it, it's just gonna restart the whole thing, and then you'll have to sit through it again. Yeah, just craziness. So like literally, I was telling people you could show up 50 minutes late to the movie and not miss Coco.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I guess they didn't learn.
Yeah. And Coco is such a great example of like a recent Disney animation that really works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it when I can tell that something's trying to make me cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which I felt like the ending of Elemental was. Earlier they were like, hey, there's this thing in our culture that we do. Don't forget it. And then at the end, it's like, hey, remember that thing from earlier? Here it is. Cry. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't like the film. I thought the film was fine. It's just not up to the Pixar standards.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's move in to our feature presentation. Mulholland Drive, 2001. An actress longing to be a star, a woman searching for herself. Both worlds will collide on Mulholland Drive. Blonde Betty Elms has only just arrived in Hollywood to become a movie star when she meets an enigmatic brunette with amnesia. Meanwhile, as the two set off to solve the second woman's identity, filmmaker Adam Kesher runs into ominous trouble while casting his latest project. As I said at the beginning, Brandon, David Lynch is a director that both of us have had little exposure to, I would say.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the film, I did want to ask you what your relationship with Lynch is like. Kind of how do you perceive him, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the first movie I saw of his was, I think, Lost Highway, but that was like a long time ago. And I didn't know who he was at the time. And the movie was super bizarre.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like kind of creeped out by the whole movie and just disturbed a bit, Yeah. And confused. And I would, at the time I was just like, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen I can't remember what maybe the second of his films I saw, but I've definitely seen maybe more interviews with him than I have of his actual films, and I like him as a person and as a, just as a filmmaker, the way that he talks about cinema and his process and other films and stuff. It's always interesting to hear, him talk about anything really.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, I went back and watched Eraserhead.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great time with that movie.
Yeah.
That movie was so good. Have you seen it?
I have, yeah.
I really enjoyed it a lot. And that kind of, took David Lynch to a new level for me where I was like, okay, I really need to watch everything he's ever done. But I still haven't, gotten around to it. I watched Blue Velvet not too long ago. I did talk about it on the show. I don't remember what episode, but I wasn't super hot on it. I was like, I don't know if this is working for me, or what the meaning behind it is. And I kind of also feel that way about Mulholland Drive right now.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and it could be one of those things where later down the line, after I've watched more David Lynch and watched his movies a few times, that he becomes like my favorite director ever. You know, that can happen sometimes. Kind of like, I mean, Evil Dead, Sam Raimi. I mean, the first time I saw Evil Dead, I was like, yeah, it was good, but I don't know that I enjoy being creeped out so much.
Yeah.
You know, but now Evil Dead is like, I fucking love it. I love the tone. I love everything about it. And there's parts of Mulholland Drive that I do like, and I kind of, after watching it the first time, I had to rethink what it was that I was trying to get out of the movie, or, you know, whatever. Like, because the movie seems like it's going to lead to something. It doesn't really. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Who knows? And I don't know if it matters. You know, like I don't know if it matters if it does or it doesn't. The part of the movie that really I started to get excited was when the two guys are in the diner, and then they're like, there's this band behind the diner or whatever, and then they walk back there, and then there's this super creepy shot of the guy like sliding out and sliding back. And at that moment, you know, I just get chills, and I'm like, ooh, like, you know, like that is super creepy and disturbing, but I'm like laughing about it. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I don't know if I'm ready for this descent into this David Lynch world, but I'm ready for it. And there wasn't ever anything else really like that in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted more of that, because that's what Eraserhead was like to me. It's like I didn't understand what any of it meant, but it was so like disturbing and like I'm kind of like giggling kind of way, that it was just so enjoyable to me that I kind of I'm like wanting that out of every David Lynch movie now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And obviously the time frame of like when he made Eraserhead and like when he made Mulholland Drive is a couple of decades, I think. So like, you know, he's obviously changed a lot as a person, and you know, probably striving for different things as a filmmaker, or exploring different things, you know. I do appreciate that David Lynch is not doing anything else that anyone else is doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, what is it that people see in him that they're like giving him money to make these things, and not other people that are also maybe just as different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it could be just him as a person. You know, I mean, when you hear him talk about his stuff, you know, it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? And it's not like he doesn't have a plan, and he doesn't have reasons for the choices that he's making.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that exactly that point there is that the films that I've seen of Lynch, none of the weirdness seem forced. You watch other films. I mean, we've talked about like Holy Mountain and stuff like that, and there's certain things in there that I'm just like, what is this? You know? Whereas with Lynch, all of it seems to connect. I text our friend Zach after I'd watched it, and I said, like, I gave him, you know, a few thoughts, and I just said that when I've come out of it, I feel like it makes total sense, but I'm still at a loss to what it all meant. Yeah. It's that kind of dichotomy of like I understand I feel like I know what he's trying to say, but I don't. Yeah, which is a really weird and like unsettling experience. And I do want to preface before we kind of get into talk about what certain things meant and stuff like that with it being so open to interpretation, the thoughts of two people that have just seen it for the first time may be very rudimentary. So if you are a lover of this film and you're like, well, like, we've only seen it a couple of times.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
please, give us a break.
Well, and also I hope that, people who do love this movie might enjoy listening to us talk about it as first-time listeners and be able to remember, oh yeah, I kind of like maybe thought that way when I first saw it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that Lynch himself is very against people like nailing it down. Being like, this is definitely what it's about.
Yeah.
Mark Kermode, the critic I was talking about earlier, has this great story where he was interviewing Lynch on stage and went into this long monologue of, what certain things meant in his films, and then was like, is any of that close? And Lynch was just like, no.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I think, all of his films are open for people to bring in and take away what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw an interview with Lynch where he was talking about films, and he was like saying that film is like one of the only art forms that can be a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can literally express something that a dream can express, but you can't express in words. It's like, you feel so strongly a certain, like when you're awake after a dream, you feel so strongly a tone or a moment or a thought that you had in a dream, but you can't exactly express it to your friend.
Yeah.
But you can if you make a film about it.
Yeah.
And so when I watched it a few days ago, and then I watched it again last night, and then when I watched it again, I kind of just looked at the movie as like, let's just pretend like this is my dream. And like it made a lot more sense that way.
Yeah, that's how I approached it the first time. The first time that I watched it, I was like, this is not going to make much sense. I'm anticipating. So I'm going to just let it wash over me and not think about it too hard.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I think that I came away from it feeling better. Because as we've said, I am on record stating that I don't really enjoy surrealist, like non-linear movies.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely better when you pretend it's a dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And two, it's like there are a lot of different scenes going on. Which like when I finished it the first time, I was like, I don't know. Like in my mind remembering the movie, it just, all I could remember was Naomi Watts and Laura Harring just like in a room talking together.
Yeah.
But then like that's not the whole movie.
No.
It's like you go back and it like breaks it up pretty well to where, it keeps it interesting with different scenes and stuff. I mean, Billy Ray Cyrus is in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like, there's other stuff going on,
Yeah.
There's like a assassin dude, that like kills these people and like, this random stuff that, and you see that character come back a few times, and I don't even think I recognized them, the first time I watched it, because it felt like a lot to kind of try to keep track of.
Yeah.
But as I watched it again the second time, I kind of maybe get what's going on, but I don't know if it matters. And I don't know what you're supposed to come away from the movie with, or if that matters. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, it's about Hollywood. Like,
yeah,
when you boil it down, it's about the land of dreams and the land of like, failure, really.
Yeah.
For every person that we put on a pedestal, there's 100 that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Minimum,
Yeah.
And I was doing some reading about it after I finished, and I think it was Roger Ebert that said like nothing in this film is true. It's all a dream or a memory.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a good way to think about it. I think, it's a good way to kind of to not try and connect it all and be like, okay, well, where does this fit in on the like? It's just doesn't matter. As you said,
exactly,
like it doesn't like it's not a film that I think will benefit from being put in a linear structure.
Yeah.
at all. I think that, I mean, I came away from it pretty happy in terms of the fact that this was a film that I was worried about watching because I don't normally like this kind of cinema. But I came away being like, I don't think it was too weird that I had no idea what was going on. But it was just weird enough to bend my mind a little bit. I wonder if that's why this film is thought of so highly. Is because it's very accessible compared to, I know you were talking about the other films that you'd seen and how just incredibly weird they are.
Yeah. Lost Highway and...
Yeah. So I do wonder if this is like so highly regarded because it's more accessible to the regular viewer.
Well, and also Naomi Watts, like in a like breakout performance. I mean, she had been around for a while, but this is like her first big leading role, isn't it? Like, and she just kind of blew up after that. Like, she's incredible in the movie.
And there's things in there that, especially with her performance, that make sense. Like when she's first on, the notes I wrote down was she's very like wide-eyed. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, like pure and like just I just want to be a movie star, but then when you look back on it at the end of the film, you're like, well, obviously, because it was like a dream. It was like an enhanced version of how she felt coming to LA. It was like it's all kind of, I don't know, everything feels that it was on purpose. The things that I was like, I don't know about that, was done for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is the sign, I think, of like a really talented filmmaker.
Yeah. So in the beginning, you've got Robert Forster and Brent Briscoe. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Which when Robert Forster came on, I was like, yeah, Robert Forster. And then he's like in that one scene.
Yeah.
And then, but one of the Brent Briscoe character is like, we found this in the back, but like, what is it? Can you tell what it is? Like, do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so I don't know if it matters, but then at the end, towards the end of the movie, after it's kind of flipped everything, and Naomi Watts is Diane Selwyn living in the house that they go in. When they find her dead body, the neighbor is like, oh, those two detectives came by. And it's like, wait a minute. Okay, so when the two women go to the neighbor's house, were they actually the Robert Forster and Brent Briscoe characters? I don't know. I was like, I start to rethink a lot of this stuff. Like, wait, so who's what?
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, like we said, it probably doesn't matter. And Mr. Lynch, if you're listening to this, sorry that we're trying to figure all this out.
Yeah.
But, but like, it's like, okay, Betty and Rita could be the same person. They could be the two sides of the coin of like who she was when she first came to Hollywood versus who she became, and and then she kills herself at the end.
Yeah.
And then the two of them together could just be the split sides of her personality trying to put the pieces together. Or it could be these two detectives, in some scenes when they're going out, it could be the two detectives actually tried to maybe trying to repiece together the story themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually the two detectives the entire time, like actually playing the scenes out, trying to figure out what happened to this woman.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then you've got the Justin Theroux character throughout, which I'm curious what your interpretation of that is. I mean, I think it's probably not a lot deeper than what's there on the surface, and maybe some of David Lynch's own experiences possibly, but it was interesting because I was listening to an interview with James Gunn yesterday, and I didn't really connect it until I was like talking to Zach about it later. But like, when I was watching this movie the first time, the Justin Theroux director character, I was like, this kind of reminds me of James Gunn because he's got like the spiked hair and like the glasses and stuff. Yeah. So what did you think of that whole side of it, or like how do you think? I mean, I know you said it's like all about Hollywood and stuff, but
yeah, I liked it. I like the fact that it shows that there's a lot going on there in terms of like film studies. There's a lot of talk about the director as an auteur. It's like his vision come to life. Like he's the one that does everything, and this kind of puts it to the plate that it's not really. He's being influenced by other people on who to cast, and they're even setting it up like he's acting, right? He's still doing the auditions, and when he finds the girl, he's got to say the line, "That's the girl," or "That's my girl," or whatever.
Yeah.
So this, even the production of film is kind of scripted.
Yeah.
I like the scene where he goes back to the house and he finds his other half in bed with the pool guy. And like taking a jewelry and pouring that vivid pink paint all over it, and like coming away with it up his black suit and stuff. It's very, it looks awesome. It's just like a visual on the screen. And also, I mean, he ends up, dating Camilla Rhodes in the second portion, which also talks to the kind of, the influence men have, right? I mean, it's now that we've on the other side now, we're 21, 22 years later, and so much has come out about, men in power influencing women. It now has like a certain tinge to it as well.
For sure, yeah.
Where it's like, is she doing this, is she, fully on board? Is this just, maybe this will help my career? Or is this influence from Adam and other men that are high up in the industry taking advantage?
But Camilla Rhodes was the actress that they wanted, that the producers forced him to cast, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Diane Selwyn is the dead woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. What's going on? What's going on with this movie? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to like piece another like story together, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm at this weird place where I'm like, is it good? Is it good? Like, am I saying it that it's? Am I trying to think that it's good because other people think it's good?
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't really know that.
I
think
think
it's interesting, but I'm like, good.
I think you've just got to go off your like gut feeling. I mean, I know how I felt when when the credits started rolling. I also put myself in an environment where I was going to, give my all to it. I left. I like closed all the shades. I turned the volume way up. I left my phone in another room.
Yeah.
I was all alone. I was like, I'm going to give 100% of me to this film.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I would potentially struggle.
Yeah.
Just because that's me. So I knew how I felt when the credits were rolling. And I know that, I haven't really stopped thinking about it since.
Yeah.
And I've been, tracing down as much information as I can about it.
Yeah, I know that I'm gonna rewatch it with Sarah because she was saying that she's been wanting to see it. So we'll watch it together again. And then maybe do that, like put our phones away and fully commit. Yeah. But I mean, what is undeniable to me is Naomi Watts. Like to me, like she is incredibly like amazing in the movie. I've always like really liked her though. Like I've always recognized like how good of an actress she is. Yeah. At least from, at least since like the first thing I saw her in, which was King Kong, 2005, which is a movie I really, really like and really liked when I went to see it. I mean, I was 15 when I went to see it, and everybody in that movie is great. I loved the pacing of that movie, and a lot of people. It just seemed like everybody I wanted to be excited with the movie about, they were like, "Oh, that movie sucks," or like, "That movie is way too long," or like, I remember going to like like this film. Well, I went to like this Christian film festival. This was a couple of years after that, and was sitting around a table with like some other young people my age, because I was like 17 at the time, and they were talking about like, what do you think the best CGI in any movie is? And I was like, King Kong, and they're like, oh no, like CGI in that movie sucks. But they were like saying Transformers was the best CGI. And I was like,
God.
Of course, like you're talking about like
apples and oranges.
Metal material. Of course you can fucking make that look amazing. Like King Kong is full of like organic life.
Yeah.
Like forests and trees and like insects and animals and stuff. And it's like, come on.
I bet if you go back and watch King Kong today, it will still look as good as it did in the cinema when you went to see it. Transformers, I'm betting it doesn't. I mean, like you said, it's easy to make things that aren't real look good because they're not real.
Exactly.
It's like you can make it look however the hell you want. If you want Optimus Prime to have a big shoulder because you can't render it down, cool, he's got a big shoulder now. Whereas like for King Kong, if he's got one arm longer than the other, you'll notice.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it always just really annoyed me that people didn't like that movie, because I'm like, this movie is good, guys.
Yeah.
Like, you go back and watch. Sorry, I'm going on the King Kong tangent, but like, you go back and watch the original King Kong, and what's cool about that one and the Peter Jackson version is like, in the movie, they're making that old movie.
Yeah.
They're making the original movie in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's great. And also Jack Black is playing like a dramatic character, and Naomi Watts is freaking amazing. And
his love for it really shines through. I got like the original King Kong on DVD, and there was a special feature with Jackson where he's like searching, or like he redid the lost footage. There's some footage where they fall into like the bug pit, and some of them get eaten by bugs and stuff that wasn't in the original. And he added that into the original, like into his King Kong, but he also like helped kind of recreate it through storyboards.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like I can't be mad at someone that loves the original this much.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not.
Yeah, that sequence I remember being amazing.
Yeah,
you know, when they're getting they fall in there and they're getting eaten by the insects is like terrifying.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was my introduction to Naomi Watts, and then, of course, you know, to me, like watching her on screen is like watching Marlon Brando or watching Sean Penn or you know, somebody who's like fully committed. Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, like she is of that caliber.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't know that we really talk about actresses that way, in the same way that we do male actresses, at least in our culture.
Yeah.
But to me, that's, and it's weird that I have to like use a man to be like, she's as great as the man.
Yeah.
For people to understand what I mean, but she's amazing. 21 Grams, the Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu film.
Mm-hmm.
She's absolutely amazing in. It's her, Sean Penn, and Benicio del Toro.
Okay.
Like, it's a super depressing movie, but amazing performances. She's in what is that movie? The tsunami movie. It's like her.
The Impossible.
Yeah, The Impossible with little Tom Holland.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still just not sure if this is a good movie. That's just where I'm at. I'm like, I I'm not qualified for this. I need a doctor in here.
You definitely are, though. I mean, it's not. I think that's part of the allure of these films is that it messes with your head because as a viewer, and I know that I've said this before, but you feel like you need to have everything in line when you come out. You need to know exactly what the film was trying to say for you, for it to have quote unquote worked for you. Now I'm really trying to kind of lean into the uncomfortable and being like, it's okay if I don't really understand everything. Yeah. It's like, I got the feeling that this is, from the very off, some of my first notes from when I was watching it was stuff like, this is very dreamlike. They keep mentioning dreams and things that aren't quite working. The camera itself is kind of like floating. Everything feels a bit kind of like
it
heightened.
does. I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I came away from it and I was like, even if that isn't, and that's why I did the preface. I was like, even if that isn't what it's about, that's what I got from it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels a little bit like, when you go to like an art show and there's a painting, like an abstract painting. Yeah. And everybody is just like talking it up and talking about all these things about it. And I'm just like, it just looks like some splotches and globs of stuff. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I feel like watching this movie. Yeah. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of like just fully accepting. It's really hard to do that, I think, in our culture. Yeah. To approach a piece of art and just kind of like let it wash over you and see what you feel about it and like fully commit to it. Cause like it would be really hard. I think, people who get into paintings, they're able to kind of stand in front of the painting and then kind of almost like meditation, like let kind of all the thoughts leave their mind and just kind of see how the painting and like take it all in and see how it makes you feel. Yeah. Kind of a thing.
We're also in a generation where everything is like every explanation is at our fingertips.
Yeah, it's like if you don't get it, someone else can explain it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many articles out there of like the ending of this movie explained, what this movie means, and it's I've purposefully tried to not Google Mulholland Drive. I've just like looked for it in like the booklet from the Criterion, like in some magazines that I've had to read about it because I don't want someone else to try and like influence me in what I think about it, if that makes sense. Like I'm quite happy just having my own encapsulation of what I think, which I understand is a really bad thing to say for a podcast where we're trying to tell people what we think about it. But and like it's...
Can we start a series of videos on our YouTube channel where it's like the ending of Mulholland Drive explained, and then you click on it and it's like decide for yourself, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. It doesn't need explaining. I mean, it'd get people to watch, so
possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
It would just be like kind of like prank videos for people to send to their friends. Yeah. To be like, oh, have you seen this video?
Yeah. We could. I mean, there's an app out there that allows short form videos that we have an account on. I don't know why I'm being around TikTok. It would be a good TikTok video. I don't know why I was trying to be all coy.
Yeah. But the thing with TikTok is it doesn't well, I guess you could at the beginning of the video say the ending of this explained, with that terrible voice that they always use.
Oh dear.
Trying to explain Mulholland Drive. Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't not enjoy it, but it was. I don't know. I wanted more of the creepiness, but I think now that I know what's all there, I can start trying to enjoy it more as I watch it a few more times.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Billy Ray Cyrus cameos are always great.
Yeah. And I think, was some trivia that was David Lynch had used Wizard of Oz and Sunset Boulevard as inspirations for this film, and they're two films that I'm very, very familiar with. So when people are referring or referencing films that I'm very aware of, maybe that helps in the overall enjoyment, because you start to, pick up on those nuances subconsciously, potentially.
Yeah, I thought about The Wizard of Oz a little bit at the end of this movie, but not because of the movie. I was thinking about Julie Gardner. Wait, what's the actress's name?
Judy Garland.
Julie Garland. Julie. Who will? I don't know. Yeah. Julie Wait. Julie Garland. Wait. Now I'm already forgetting the name again.
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. Yes. I don't know why it's like.
We've said it so much that
movie,
even I'm like, is that right?
Yeah. This movie is like, no, it's Julie Gardner. It's like flipping it around. Because she was, abused so much on that movie, and her life was, not great. And, she was this Hollywood actress that was taken advantage of her whole life and, did a lot of drugs, and behind the scenes did not have a the Hollywood star life.
No.
And that's why I was thinking of her at the end of the movie, because, it's ultimately about an actress who commits suicide.
Yeah. Yeah.
To get rid of her own demons,
Yeah.
Because, there's like right at the end, like there's all these characters that have been in the movie that are like crowding around her until she kills herself.
Yeah.
So, but then also the other obvious thing with Wizard of Oz is like, the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings.
Yeah.
That nothing is what it seems.
Being in a make-believe world.
Yeah.
There was a documentary I think that came out earlier this year called Lynch and Oz, which is kind of like a real deep dive into, a bit like Room 237, into Lynch's relationship with Wizard of Oz and kind of how it comes across in his movies, which might be a good thing to watch, maybe. But then again, it's someone telling you what it means.
Yeah, exactly.
Which might not be.
At the end of the documentary, it's just Lynch being like, nope.
Yep, none of that's right. The one thing that I do want to talk about, which I've been thinking about a lot, is like the male gaze and how these films are made for male audiences, just in general, and in the second half of this film, there's a lot of nudity and sexual relations between two women. I watched an interview with Naomi Watts and David Lynch where he said that it was like super important for the plot to show that, and like it kind of hinged on those scenes. What do you think? Because I don't know, like, I don't think all of it was warranted. I don't know if some of it was just in there because it's like two very attractive females on screen. And as a viewer, you're subconsciously like, I want to see that happen.
I think if it is actually the two detectives, it's way more interesting. And maybe Lynch was trying to make a point with that. And maybe that thing in the bag was like, some kind of toy for them to use. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's a good question, because it's like, watching it again the second time, I didn't realize how long it was before.
Yeah.
Because the nudity is not until like way later in the movie.
Yeah, it's like the last hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, because it's hard to, like, is it important? I don't know if it is. It might be it might have been for the time, and even now, I mean, it might have been just to get people to like the movie.
Yeah.
Because without that, I wonder if people would be like, eh.
But it also shows Betty, at her most vulnerable, in that first scene, she's like, I love you, you know. So it shows her frame of mind towards Rita, where she's like obsessed with her, really. She's like in love with her to the point where it's like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does help with the plot as far as like, yeah, because at the end, you know, the same woman who is actually Camilla is dating the director.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously her jealousy is a part of what potentially leads to her suicide.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it probably is important for the plot as far as the love affairs and stuff goes, because that's so intertwined with Hollywood and
Yeah.
sometimes what drives people over the edge to do crazy things.
And it's the movies, right? You go to the movies to see sex, violence, and things that you don't get in your everyday life.
And obviously all the sex isn't glamorous. I mean, the stuff between them is, but like, you know, there's the scene where Naomi Watts is like masturbating and very like abusively to herself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not like it's just, it doesn't feel like it's there just to be there.
No. And I'm glad you said that, because I feel, you know, on reflection, you know, when it's happening, you're like, oh, blimey, this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
You know, but then when you do think about the overarching, you know, the film as a whole, it seems to warrant it. It's like, it's needed. I know that both actors said that, you know, some of the scenes, those particular scenes were really hard for them to kind of film.
Yeah.
Which they would be, you know.
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of like a lot of the narrative behind the scenes is like, Naomi Watts found the masturbation scene really hard, and Laura Harring found the first love scene really hard to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you do feel like Naomi Watts' character really loves her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To the point where when the jealousy comes in, you really feel that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I just thought it would be interesting to bring it up because it is, you know, such a big part of this movie and something that a lot of people have talked about. So
yeah. And of course when the actress who plays Rita, Laura Harring, comes on, like when she first, you know, when I first saw her on screen in the movie, I recognized her from The Punisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From she plays John Travolta's wife, like the head of the evil family. Which I've seen that movie a ton of times.
Yeah.
And that's like the only other thing I think I know her from. But she's also very good in the movie.
She is really good. Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think obviously when you've got a film that's centered around two very strong female characters, you know, this conversation kind of leads into that. Because it is a very female-focused film. And I think apart from the sex, it's not, you know, derogatory in any way.
Yeah. But is it male gazy?
Well, exactly. That's the, you know, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. Because the rest of the movie doesn't necessarily feel like it, except for those scenes.
Yeah, I think when you think about it, and, you know, if you're trying to portray Hollywood at its most basic, it's that the female experience was terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of, you know, you would be taken away that narrative if it was a man in either of those roles. Because, you know, men have had it a lot easier than women in the film industry. So I think that it's warranted.
Yeah, well, there's also the scene where she auditions, right? With the older man. Like, he's and like it's very old.
Yeah.
He's a good actor, but, you know, the age gap is like, bro, come on.
I know, yeah.
And I'm sure that was super awkward, too, to film.
Yeah,
but,
I must... Oh, yeah, makes you feel ill.
Yeah.
You know, that there's the day that's happening, and he's like, he pulls her closer, and it's very nauseating. But also, there's like loads of people kind of sitting around, just like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
Which is gross, also.
Yeah.
Not that you'd want it in a private room, but the things that he said make it sound like, this is how he auditions, is like, who can give him an erection, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at least it doesn't at least it doesn't try to make it seem normal.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what's next on the David Lynch list for you?
I have talked about going to rewatch The Elephant Man a few times. I watched it when I was a lot younger, and I haven't watched it since, so I am very tempted by that. But I know that Criterion just put out Inland Empire on 4K, so maybe that.
Yeah, I have not seen The Elephant Man.
I
might watch that next because I know you said it's really good, and a lot of people said it's really good. But that it's also a commissioned work for him too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of probability, Mulholland Drive again.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Have you got another one that you've got lined up?
I mean, like I said, I want to watch The Elephant Man, but I might also rewatch Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Just to be like, what would I think of this movie now? Because I also kind of don't remember a ton about it, So yeah, I would kind of like to see how I feel about that now, if I enjoy the disturbingness of it.
You'll have to let me know. And it's got Mink Stoll in it.
Oh, okay.
As a voice, apparently.
Oh, as a voice. Nice. Yeah. She's in like a bunch of the John Waters stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, cool. If there's nothing else that you want to bring up, do you want to guess what the other person rated this on Letterboxd?
Let's do it. Cool. I'm going to say you rated it 4 out of 5.
Okay. I want to say that you rated it 3.5 out of 5.
All right. You would be correct.
Wow. I rated it 4.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
I felt very happy coming out of it. Not happy as in like, oh, that was a fun film, but happy as in like, I know what I felt.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to give this movie and David Lynch some more chances. And like I said earlier, like it could be that once it clicks for me, like I'm like, oh, David Lynch is the best.
Yeah. I'm just happy because, I know that loads of people talk about Lynch. I'm just happy that the most celebrated film worked for me in terms of like...
On a basic level.
Yeah. On a, I haven't done much research or reading into this. Yeah. But I came away from it being like, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
So...
Nice.
Yeah. Who knows if because I know like we said, we both felt similar to Blue Velvet, whereas like, not 100%.
Yeah.
So...
But also, I know a lot of people that's like one of their favorite.
Yeah.
I think Zach is one of his favorites.
Yeah.
So.
Film subjective.
Yeah.
That's all there
is. Or is it?
Talking of subjective films, Brandon, what are we going to be watching next week, my friend?
All right. So next week, I decided to pick a film that I've seen many, many, many times, and I know you haven't seen, and I cannot wait to see what you think about this movie. It is a superhero movie, but it's not what you might think. It's Batman 1966.
Awesome. I have not seen any of the TV show or the movie.
Yeah, I have not really seen the TV show, but I've seen the movie many, many times.
Cool.
And was a big part of my Batman world as a child. And I cannot wait because it's
awesome.
I mean, everybody knows Batman. Everybody knows his catalog of villains.
Yeah.
And Robin and Alfred, and it's got everybody.
Uh-huh.
you know, and but not in the way that you're used to seeing them. So we'll find out what Lewis thinks next week.
Awesome. I'm so excited. That's going to be a really fun show. That does bring us to the end of the show. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio, and you can follow us individually on Letterboxd. Brandon is at Selman Scope, and I am at Walker Lewis 3007 to keep up with what we've been watching over there. We also have all of our back episodes streaming on all good podcast platforms. So go ahead, leave us a rating and review. We much appreciate it. It helps other people find the show and join the congregation. It would be great. Lastly, thank you all so much for being here and listening to the end. We hope you enjoy the conversations. We enjoy having them. We'd love for you to get involved. So please do send us some comments for us to keep the conversations going. We'd love to hear from you all. But until next week, the only thing left to say is... Yes? May I help you?
Someone is in trouble. Who are you? What are you doing in Ruth's apartment?
She's letting me stay here. I'm her niece. My name's Betty.
No, it's not. That's not what she said. Someone is in trouble. Something bad is happening.
Amen.
Amen.